ready for episode 6, The Book of Redemption in the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives?
You're ready? Okay. So Whitney goes to visit Jen. That's how the episode starts.
Hmm.
And Jen answers the door and she's crying. This was all very sad. The situation with Jen is sad. She tells Whitney about her prenatal depression,
Depression.
her peripartum depression. And then she shares in the chair, like in the interview, that she felt depressed initially when before pregnancy, when she realized just the problems in her marriage and what she wants her marriage to look like, and um what needs to change. But then when she was pregnant, she hit rock bottom.
Yeah. I know not everybody has been through like a real depressive episode. Everybody's been sad and everybody's felt depressed probably, but I'm not sure people can really appreciate what it is like to be so ground down that you can't get out of bed, that your thoughts are on it all the time, that you feel probably like, I mean, I'm projecting a bunch of things, right? But like you're probably feeling like a failure, especially when the idea of being a good mom and a good wife is so ingrained in you and your marriage is in trouble and it's so public. Like there's so many reasons why Jen would be depressed.
Mhm.
And then she even highlights like I chose mom talk and mom talk is turning their back on me, which I think is fair. I'm so disappointed in everybody's ability to navigate Jen's circumstance in this. But
Yeah.
then when she says she found out she's pregnant, this is so sad. I think it's sad for a mother who definitely doesn't want to feel this way about pregnancy or a child or anything. And so that makes it extra to feel that depression related to your pregnancy. You probably work with this way more than I do. What did you think?
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of guilt and shame that can be present, and feelings of yeah, with that shame, I'm a bad mom, like I'm a bad person for feeling that way. And yeah, I've worked with, that's not my primary area, but I've worked with many pregnant women and postpartum women that have had depression and anxiety. And um it was, it's really sad to watch. There is this, like, with shame of any kind, there's this feeling like this need to isolate and not talk about it because it feels so shameful. And
Hmm.
what would other people think if I were to say, like, I'm having these feelings while I'm pregnant? One of the things I thought about that's a theme from the first season to this episode, I mean, it comes up a lot. How many times people say babies are blessings? And I feel like that's not always the case for some people. And that probably then evokes a lot of shame for anyone that is feeling that way. And like, well, of course, babies are blessings, but some people might not everyone is going to be elated when they find out that they're pregnant. There are a lot of people that might be, yeah, but not everyone. And you're allowed to feel whatever you're feeling. And it obviously was very scary for her when she started having some of that. It sounded like, at the very least, like passive suicidal ideation of, driving in the car and just realizing I don't want to be here anymore. And that broke my heart. Like, I
Yeah.
had an emotional response watching that. And I've definitely worked with people that have had women that have been in this position, or, again, postpartum, that have had these feelings before. And it's really complicated because I think many people don't feel like that they can share that, because a lot of people are like, well, this is good, this is happy, and not for, that's not the case for everyone. So,
Yeah. I know I felt really protective, I think, of Jen in this moment because I don't know how viewers of the show are seeing her, and I'm imagining that some people are feeling kind of negatively toward her. And the fact that she shared this feels really vulnerable, and I felt that worry of like if somebody dislikes her and she shares that, I hope they can still be compassionate around that part. But I think that when people express depression or suicidal thoughts, reactions can be different. I'm thinking of like maybe three initial types of reactions where somebody maybe has never experienced it and really doesn't get it. And so they're not going to kind of fully be able to appreciate what that means to say that or what it feels like. And they could even judge it as like weak or a cry for help or dramatic or something like that. So that doesn't feel very good. You could also have people who do think about suicide once in a while abstractly, and so they might think it's no big deal and they might downplay it for those reasons. And so to have somebody who's sort of like, I know what it's like to be in a place in my life where I'm so stuck, or my needs aren't met, or I'm dissatisfied, or I'm feeling hurt, or there's like all this distress, and my brain is trying to solve my problems, and one of the solutions that comes up over and over and maybe is like coming up more prevalently is I could kill myself. And even if that's not reached to the point where it's a serious thought or a plan or consideration, the fact that it's on the list of solutions, I think, tells you that, like, oh, I'm not in a good place if that's on. If one of the solutions for solving my life's problems is like, oh, I could kill myself, I think sometimes that's an indication of like, oh, I'm pretty depressed.
Yeah, there's like a hopelessness there because there
Yeah.
like the other options or um like potential solutions like feels like it would be particularly helpful. And yeah, there's hopelessness, maybe helplessness, and it's really hard. And for some people that have not had that experience before with suicidal ideation, but they've had experiences with depression, I've had in practice people talk about like, yeah, I've been really depressed before, like maybe even to the point where it's hard to get out of bed, but like even if that's not present, like I've dealt with depression before. But what really scared me was when I then started to have those thoughts, and that told me like there's a
Right.
really big problem that can
Yeah.
feel really scary for people, for sure. And I hope she doesn't talk about it in this episode, and I have not seen further episodes, so I don't know if she does talk about therapy or even medication options. There are antidepressants that are safe for pregnancy
Right.
that can be really helpful. And I've had many conversations with people about, making sure that you have that additional support and then really preparing for postpartum to
Mhm.
have those supports in place. So whether that's you've established with a psychiatrist, you've talked to your OB, like whomever to talk about medication options, even if you don't want to do it during pregnancy, like, do we want to talk about it postpartum?
Mhm.
Definitely therapy. Like, let's set up some therapy appointments as you can always cancel them, but like as soon as you have the baby, just for check-ins. And I think that that's really important. So she doesn't really talk about that much. And I hope that she sought out like therapeutic support or at least feels support from her social support. At
Yeah.
least the mom talk gals are not providing a ton of that.
When I'm assessing somebody's risk for suicide, the things that are more likely to show up are things like, yes, if they're experiencing hopelessness about the future or they feel worthless themselves, but interpersonal rejection, social isolation, no sense of belonging are big factors that I think are like put somebody at risk. And so the fact that she's going through a thing, but also there's this public court of opinion where she's experiencing a sense of belonging from Whitney, who's being protective, a
Mhm.
protective factor right now, like something helpful. But she's feeling rejection not only from the other mom talkers, but also probably, tens of thousands of viewers who fall in the camp of that rejection. That it feels, I think this is one of those moments where it's like, remember that even celebrities are human. And so they're still going to care. It's still going to impact them potentially deeply to be rejected by the public.
And they're very new with this. Like
Yeah.
love my Bravo shows, watch a lot of reality TV. They'll talk about how the people that maybe just started like a season 1 or their first season, they struggle a little bit more. And then when they become more seasoned, they
Mm,
develop different, they don't use this term, but they develop different coping strategies like to deal with the online hate that they might like receive. And you don't look into it or you find these different strategies to cope and not personalize it too much. And these people are new. Like this is their second season, so they just got through the first and they're not used to this level. Even though they've been influencers, they're not used to this maybe like significance in terms of their platform. And yeah.
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I felt sad. She did say, so she's not going on the Arizona trip.
Right.
And Whitney, I think, says something like, how much do you want me to share? And she said, just say, like, I'm pregnant and I'm not feeling well because that's true.
Hmm.
So that's where they kind of end, I think.
I guess I wanted to ask you if you had thoughts. I've heard Jen say a couple of times, like she's blaming how she's feeling on hormones, pregnancy hormones. I'm just curious what your thoughts were, because I think that that both feels significant, but I'm also thinking like what you're going through is enough to feel the way you're feeling, and so I'm not sure how much she's downplaying her feelings by blaming it on hormones, or if she's acknowledging that hormones are having a big impact, or I'm just, I don't know. Did you have thoughts on that?
I think it's really hard to tease apart. I have worked with patients that have postpartum or peripartum depression or anxiety, both. But the primary population that I work with either they have like gastrointestinal like disorders of some kind, or they have a cancer history. So I work with like the oncology population. And so I've had patients that have like weirdly like a handful of patients that have had been diagnosed with cancer either right before they got pregnant or during their pregnancy.
Mhm.
And they are having to do surgery at a certain point in their pregnancy, but then they have to wait for chemo or radiation till after they have a baby. And then if they're breastfeeding, so like those are circumstances that when you're not pregnant, that would cause some amount of depression or anxiety. And I think it's really hard to like you can't really tease apart what is hormonal and what is like just the circumstances. I definitely have seen people that their circumstance they will say like everything's going really well. There's no reason that I should feel like this and I'm feeling that way. If you have a history of any sort of major depressive episode prior to pregnancy, your risk for having like peripartum or postpartum depression or anxiety increases. And
Mhm.
so that is another thing. Like when I see people before they get pregnant, if they have a history, like we talk about, like let's just kind of keep our eye on this and make sure that we have certain supports in place. And so um I I think it could I mean, I sort of look at it as like a unless you're not able to point to any circumstance at all, which
Mhm.
again, like a major depressive episode does not have to be triggered by anything in particular. You can have one.
Mhm.
And so I, sort of look at it as a combination, like questions that I would ask, like, did you have any sort of depressive episode or symptoms in your last two pregnancies or that postpartum year? And like getting that history would be helpful too, to also then like, okay, you've not experienced, but again, I've had people that have never had any peripartum or postpartum depression or anxiety, and then their third kid they do. And so I think it's,
Yeah.
I guess I don't put a lot of weight into what is causing this as much as your risk increases when you're pregnant and then when you're postpartum because of the hormonal shifts. And
Mhm.
it's really, really important to attend to that regardless, but like to really pay attention and just be on alert when you are going through those like big hormonal changes of any like mood changes too.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. I mean, I didn't want to downplay if she's sort of like, I know my body and I can tell my hormones are impacting me. I wouldn't want to sort of dismiss that and be like, no, girl. But I also wouldn't want a woman to gaslight herself into sort of saying, like, my reaction is very strange and unreasonable, but it's because I'm a lady and my hormones are making me feel this way. Like, I don't, that to me doesn't feel like it does justice to like, this is a difficult situation. And
Yeah.
so when she was saying that, yeah, I hope it makes her feel better, but I was just sort of like, hmm,
Yeah, I think there's this increase in like emotional sensitivity, even with women like outside of pregnancy, just like with menstruation. Like, right, people like will talk about like, oh, I was like crying on those like Humane Society
yeah,
like
yeah,
videos or sites that I've seen
yeah.
and then I realized like, oh, I got my period. And so like people will say that, but it's like very offensive to be like, you're sad because are you on your period? Or you
Yeah.
got to period? But then there is this like experience that I think some women have where you're like, I feel really upset and really angry. And then you get your period, like, okay, this and so I think
It's a,
part
like a relief to sort of say like, ah.
of it that makes sense.
Because I
And so I think
wasn't regulating as well as I wanted to, right? Like I felt sort of, yeah,
is the term ipsative? Like, is that am I using that?
I don't know that word.
Did I make that up? I'm gonna look that up real quick. It's basically like you need to just become familiar with your own history and know what is typical for you and make that comparison. So it's not, yeah, ipsative is a
That's
measurement
it.
where, yeah, where you are comparing your response to your previous responses. So like you are
Mm.
measuring yourself not against other people, against you. And so I think like if you I think those are really important questions to ask. Like, is this how you typically respond to situations in the past?
Yes.
Feel different. Okay. So that's useful data and not compare it as much to like, well, okay, well, other people might not be as upset, or yeah, other people would be upset. Like, what feels more typical for you, baseline?
I would highlight that in many ways, that's what a counseling psychologist does. And that's where like a lot of our work and knowledge comes into play because somebody might come to a psychologist and sort of be like, tell me about myself. And my response is always like, actually, let's start with you. Tell me about yourself. Because I can't tell you anything. The idea of like psychology captures a human experience, but in counseling, it has to be tailored. And so it's like, I might know this is the general thing that many people or most people experience, and that's helpful. But ultimately, it has to be like, who are you compared to you? And it has to be like important. That's cool. Yeah, that's interesting.
It kind of drives me crazy when I have people show up and I'm like, what would you like to focus on today? And they're like, I don't know. I guess I just want you to tell me like what we should talk about. And I'm like, I have no clue what your problems are. And like, this isn't, so I normally am like, this isn't my session. Like, this is up to you. Like,
Mm,
you have to decide.
yeah.
There is this like, I think for some people that are new to therapy and like certain personalities that are and those individuals are new to therapy, there is this like, well, you just tell me what my problems are and like what I should do. It's like, okay, no, but we got to talk about you and what you find to be problematic and what you
Yep.
want to change. And yeah, so
Every once in a while when somebody comes in and they're just like, do therapy at me, it takes a little bit to figure out what that's going to mean or what's going to be helpful for that person. I think I would be that kind of client too. I'd be like, there's a lot going on. You pick.
you pick,
You
tell
pick
me
what
what's
I
wrong
what I
with
should
me.
fix.
So, okay. So they have that. They are going to Scottsdale, Arizona. Have you ever been?
No. Is it a destination? No. I mean, I'm
So,
aware that Arizona is a place, but is it a destination?
oh, I've never been. I have a lot of friends that Scottsdale, Arizona is like a primary bachelorette place. Like they
Huh.
will have bachelorette parties there. You know, you get like an Airbnb with a pool and you just kind of hang out at the pool, which that sounds nice. Yeah,
Their Airbnb or whatever they stayed at looked amazing. Looked really beautiful.
you did. I
But
thought it
the
was, oh,
Go ahead.
what were you gonna say? Yeah.
Well, I was going to jump right into the pole dancing on the bus.
I was too. That's what I was gonna say too. You go.
I mean, what fun.
I thought
Um,
I thought it was hilarious that everyone was very concerned about Whitney. They're like, "You just gave birth. You could bleed out." And she's like, "It's fine," like on the pole. And they're like, "No, you don't understand." Because what did she say? She's like, "I don't have stitches," and she's like winding her way around the pole. And they're like, "You can still bleed out." And then she's like, "It's fine." And it wasn't until like someone was like, "Your internal system, you're still healing internally." And she was like, "Okay."
Get off the pole, Whitney.
Yes. I thought it was so funny. Also, there's no way if you like gave if I went on a party bus with a pole and I was like, "Watch this, everyone," it would be upsetting for people. Like, there's no way I could do that. Uh,
Well, I didn't think about that. I mean, I did see them reacting to her having surgery. I had no opinion. I had no sense of
I thought it was so
who
funny.
who was overreacting or who thought it was fine. I'd jump on the pole in a bus like that. I would love a pole dancing bus somewhere. I would
In a
do
city,
all of my cardio the whole time.
would you do it if it was a TV show?
If I'm on a TV show in which I'm in a bus with a pole, I've already gone too far. So yes, of course. Yeah. If I'm there in that situation, yeah, I'll take what's next.
I'm not.
I'm not going
I'm
to
not.
arrange it for so we shouldn't do that on our podcast tour.
If you no, yeah, we could turn off the camera. Like we could have people on the bus. You all can do it, and then we'll turn off the camera, and then I'll be like, and it's my turn, and it will be very awkward for everyone. Or if I had a lot of wine, maybe. But
There's
yes,
a
no.
there's a pole dancing place in my town that teaches it. I
A
mean, that's
class.
probably not uncommon.
No, so I feel like those were really big in like the 2010s. What do you think? I might.
Probably, yeah. And
I
in
feel like yeah,
Utah, they were replaced by soda shops.
I told you they opened what's the soda shop that's really big on this? Slurp or Gulp or something.
Yeah, something. Sip.
Oh, what is it? Anyway, they opened one in Indiana.
Well, I went to Utah recently. I went to Utah this summer, and I even thought, I'm like, should I be doing anything for the show while I'm here? But it was just a family trip. But my partner had a dirty soda with Dr. Pepper and some coconut something and whatever. And
Why is it called a dirty soda? That makes it sound like was there alcohol in it?
no, no, like a dirty martini has olive juice in it. So I think it just means like flavor added actually makes an alcoholic drink dirty. Well, olive juice specifically makes a martini dirty. I actually don't know if there's
Yeah.
another use for that. So I'm
Well,
assuming it's coming from that. It's like we've mixed in more stuff. It's not alcohol.
with a chai latte, you can get a dirty chai, and that is has espresso in it, which I sort of like view as like this is like tea, but a dirty chai has espresso, which is like the
Interesting.
so that's why I was like, is a dirty soda like booze? They showed the fridge and there were all these poppy sodas in there. And the
Oh, yeah, I wrote down that Poppy's getting some endorsement here.
I love poppy sodas. And so
Ooh, we're doing an endorsement. Poppy, I hope you're
Sure.
watching. Give us
You
money. Okay, go ahead.
we're happy to endorse you. We are huge fans. Which again, I was like, is this poor parenting? Because I will like have one at home, and then my 5-year-old is like, "Can I have some of that?" I'm like, "You can have a sip." Because I'm like, whatever, it's a prebiotic. Like that's probably good for her. Like she needs more fiber. I don't know. I did think I was like all those poppies. And so they had like the mocktail, like they had different names for the poppy sodas, and I was interested in that. But
So the one thing on the bus I think is Whitney says Jen's not coming because of the pregnancy. I was appalled. First of all, nobody knows that it's an unplanned pregnancy, but I guess by the way they were talking, but this is a married woman, first of all. I'm just gonna say the way they were reacting like this was somehow some kind of like poor judgment or moral failing or oh, it's a band-aid baby, or just all the assumptions they made about why Jen was pregnant under the circumstances kind of disgusted me.
it was
That's
awful.
all.
It was awful. I feel like we should comment more on this
Okay.
because I had many thoughts. It was terrible. And I do feel like there is this experience when people complain about their partners or spouses for an extended period of time. If you then, and I think I talked about this like it's episode 1 or 2, like if you're like, no, everything's fine, people don't like that. They have a hard time with that. And it's like very, all or nothing. And so I think like for people to be, well, okay, you were unhappy, there are issues, that doesn't mean that you want to give up on your family either, and or it's not going to work out. It just feels like they then don't care as much about any challenges that she's going through in the marriage or in the pregnancy because, well, you asked for this. That's what it feels a little bit like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, so not that this changes anything drastically, but so Whitney was the person who was the messenger. So she said, Jen's not here because she's pregnant and not feeling well. And all of these women have been pregnant at some point. So I sort of wondered if they were like, okay, like she's pregnant, not feeling well. I could kind of see how maybe they'd be like, we just, what a coincidence. We don't think you want to be here. Not fair. That's like not a fair assessment at all of like the situation with Jen. But I could maybe see how they would think that, though it's really upsetting the things that they say about her, right? But also Whitney didn't say, which Jen asked her not to, that she's depressed. I kind of feel like if that, I would like to think that if that information had been presented to the group, she's struggling with like pretty significant depressive symptoms, that they would have changed the way they responded. What do you think?
Yeah, what you're saying is making me think of like just the overall stigma of mental health and even thinking of like sick days and calling in sick or having a mental health day be a reason for an absence of any kind. And on the one hand, I think that's becoming much more understood and mainstream. But when you say that, I don't know if that comes from my own demographic and age group and how I would expect people to respond. But I could really imagine them feeling like that wasn't a good enough excuse. But I wonder, yeah, if she had actually said, it's because I'm depressed, would they have said that's just an excuse, or would they have said, like, oh, now we know how this is all impacting you? I don't know. That's a good question.
Think too. So I remember this was when I was in my master's program. I worked part-time at this psychologist private practice, and there was a doctoral student that worked there as well. But I was just working the front desk. So like I think that person like saw people. But I remember the doctoral student called off and told the psychologist that she couldn't come in because she had really bad period cramps. And she was not in the office. And the psychologist, who had a lot of interesting personality features, was very critical of her. Like, okay, we've all had period cramps.
Mm,
Like, come on, like you got to buck up and just get in the office. And I sort of wonder if there's a little bit of that here. Like, okay, unless they were like, she's violently vomiting from pregnancy, like her pregnancy, because nausea is normal. Like you don't feel, especially that first trimester, like you don't feel well, sure. Unless you specify like the severity, I think there is, and it's not fair or right, but I think that amongst other women who have been pregnant, like, okay, like are you just queasy? You just don't feel well, like you're
mm.
low energy, like join, like we've all been there. You can suck it up and go. And I don't think that that's right, but I think that I think that exists. It would be awful to watch that play out, to have people say that about you.
I think what you're saying is interesting, though, because some people suffer and it makes them more compassionate, and other people suffer and it has the opposite effect. And so when you say something like period cramps, maybe for a woman hearing that, they're like, I know what that feels like, which isn't the same. I mean, I assume people experience them to different degrees. Like,
Yeah.
like some people must suffer for them more. And I
Yeah.
think there's a judgment of like, oh, you are weak instead of, oh, it must be worse than mine were, or something like that.
Yes, I don't think that's present. I think that's very true. I don't think it's present that like, oh, okay. Like I will say I went through this period which my OBGYN was like, once you have a baby, it'll get better, which I guess it maybe did. But like where I passed out from period cramps, like lost
Mm.
consciousness. And I also think it was like a little bit dehydration too, if I'm being honest. But like I think that if I were to say like I'm really sick from my period, it's different than others. And I obviously had some that are perfectly fine and like, unpleasant, but like you can still cope and do everything you need to do. I think it varies person to person and month to month for some people. But I do think like there is a little bit of like, okay, yeah, we all know what that is. It's not that bad. You can be here.
And I think it's when you're absent or sick, or somebody is absent or sick at a time when they have a presentation to give or something, it's impossible for it not to feel suspicious or like a way to get out of something. But of course, you could get sick at any moment.
I hope that they watch back this and I think there's a reunion which we will cover, I'm sure. I've not
Mhm.
seen. I hope that they address that and I hope people express some remorse in how they responded. I think everyone's experience of mental health, anxiety, depression, it's so different and I think it varies so significantly for people that someone could be like, "Well, I've been depressed too. I've been
Mhm.
anxious." But like have those symptoms gotten to the degree where you are like paralyzed from it and you are shutting down and it's effortful to even text back because that is like very, very true for some people. Like it is taking too much of my cognitive and emotional resources to even respond in a text. And I think it's easy for the person on the other end to be like, oh, okay, it takes 2 seconds to text back.
Yeah.
I've also had anxiety. I've also been depressed. But and it's not that other person's job to have to justify and explain the severity of their symptoms to then hopefully allow that other person to give them permission to do what they need to do, which is maybe back off.
Yeah. it's also understandable if I'm depressed for a year and I don't talk to you for a year and our friendship grows cold. Like, it's not your responsibility to sort of like hang around forever if I'm not being a good friend either. But I
Mhm.
would hope for some compassion in and not being accused and just sort of be like, yeah, that sucks, but like our friendship isn't being maintained. And nobody's saying that with Jen. They're not sort of saying like, I want her to put in the effort because we're all trying. They're just like, we want to argue more, and now she's not up for it. And nobody's thinking like maybe we're grounding her down past her capacity to sort of like engage with this.
And she's pregnant. She just found out she's pregnant. So maybe she doesn't want to subject herself to the arguments and drama. But Demi thinks she's being a coward. Anyway.
Which is probably something she could still feel, right? She might watch this and see everything that we just saw and talked about and could still feel like, oh, she's a coward. She's a coward, and that's an excuse, and that feels bad to think of the limits of people's compassion. But
Mhm.
mental health, I think, is hard for people to understand. Even physical health. I've been so horribly sick that I wished I were dead, food poisoning and that sort of thing. And
Mhm.
yet if I'm feeling fine and somebody says, "Oh, I had food poisoning," I I kind of I don't return to that place where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sort of like, oh, that sucks. I do it myself. I'm like, oh, yeah, been there. And it's the worst. But for some reason, I'm not like, oh my gosh, let's talk about it. I'm just like, it sucks when that happens. When you almost die and your body betrays you.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I mean, I've experienced my own compassion dry up when I'm not even in it in the moment. And so I think we should all be better at that, right? Like notice, like, gosh, I'm not feeling very compassionate, even though I've been through something similar.
At some point, Demi starts talking about her relationship with Brett. And so Taylor says, I think Demi is trying to project this perfect relationship. Demi says things like, we never not have things to talk about. And then you remember in high school when you had a best friend that you were attached at the hip with? That's how Brett and I are. And I really wanted to know your opinion on this because I very much feel like doth protest too much. Like the couple that's like, we're so in love. We love each other so much. They're the best partner ever. I'm so happy. I couldn't be happier. Is really hard to relate to. Like I like relate far more to the person that's like, they're driving me crazy. And I'm excited to get dinner with them tomorrow. Like, I don't know, like something that feels a little bit more balanced than if you're having to brag about your relationship because the bus scene, no one else was really talking about their relationships.
It's not that I'm seeing her do that all the time, I guess, but I think Taylor maybe even alludes to it and says that a lot of time Demi has a lot to say about people's relationships, but doesn't talk about hers. And so Taylor seems to think that there's something that she's not showing the real side or she's not opening up about her relationship. And I guess I'm like, if your relationship were just like fine, totally, maybe this is also what it would look like. But I'm like, is that because they don't spend any time together? But it sounds like they spend all their time together. So I don't know. Did you see the second season of White Lotus?
Yes.
It feels, I mean, I guess the comparison would be, is it like that super wealthy couple who never fought? And arguably, as you watch the entire season, they're happy. They
Mhm.
might say they're happy, and I don't have any evidence to disagree, except for a couple of little subtle looks and different things there. And I might find it difficult to believe that they're happy because my values tell me
Yeah.
that's probably not happy. And that's true. I look at that. And that's the whole commentary, right? Is they're cheating on each other and they have no communication, but we never fight and everything's fine. And I think like other people are looking at that and saying that's fake. There's no way I would never be happy with that. So yeah, it probably gives off that vibe of like something is amiss when you claim everything is perfect
Which we should talk about in the next
as they
season.
get into. Oh
Yeah,
yes.
for us with White Lotus because
Oh
I have
right. Yeah.
so many thoughts. Yes, I have so many thoughts about all of that. No, I agree though. I agree. And I think like what works for people in their relationship is different, like what their values are different, like what they care about. But I do kind of think when people are bragging about their partners when they've been together for a long time, it generally raises red flags. Like there are some like you could compliment your partner. You could be like, "Oh my gosh, listen to this really great thing that they did. I was really excited." But when you say things like we just, like those people that are attached to the hip, we're attached to the hip. We just never like stop like we never run out of things to talk about. Like that's not a natural experience for a relationship. Everyone runs out of things to talk about. That's okay. And it's not a problem if you do.
That's
I guess
true.
it's
What's
not a
the flex?
yeah. It's not a problem if you don't. I guess if you have things to talk
Yeah.
about constantly, that's really great. I think I'd be like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about to that extent? But yeah. So
So then Jesse is the one who says, "Let's have another truth box," and just doesn't even
this is
try to make it something different.
this is where I put all in caps. OMG, not another truth box. Can we stop with the truth box?
It's funny. It's like a therapy intervention they figured out can get them a little mileage or something on the drama, but they're not trying to do new things or trying to be creative. They're just like more drama.
I think you can get away with that twice. Once. And then after that, it's now becoming it's excessive. It's like a little kitschy to start with. Like clearly, like they're all passive aggressive. They all have a hard time saying these things, even though they're like, I'll tell them this to their face. Well, you're not because you're saving it for the truth box. Okay. And it's anonymous and you're waiting for that. And so I find it to be really now it's annoying to me. And as a viewer, I'm not enjoying it. So as soon as she
Hmm.
walked out, like gold truth box. I was like, I've had enough. I don't want to see this. Like, I'm not interested. This isn't fun for me as
I
an
know.
audience member to
I
see.
know. Is anybody looking forward to the truth box, the next truth box?
Well, and then too, Jesse was like, "Well, I thought Jen was going to be here, and I really did have a lot." Like, clearly, the truth box was geared towards Jen. She's not there, and Jesse said something like, "But it'll still be fun anyway." So then that feels mean. Like that feels yucky to me. And so, like, and I get reality TV is yucky. There's drama, like a lot of people fighting over these just ridiculous, like they're having ridiculous arguments, and I'm okay with that. But if it's starting to feel mean, that's when I don't love that. That's what this is feeling. Like it's starting to feel mean. And I'm not
Hmm.
liking it.
I mean, it's interesting. It's like the equivalent of truth or dare, which might show up at a lot of parties, and maybe people have a lot of motives for doing it.
When they're
But
like 15.
when they're 15, yeah. And it's like the option of like, ooh, there's stuff I want to find out, but if I don't get to, at least I can kind of, like interact with this person or do something exciting or whatever. It's like a little stimulation fix for them, but
Mhm.
it's like a placeholder for let's clear the air.
Yeah.
They could have a let's clear the air retreat, and it'd
Mhm.
probably look exactly like this, but
Because they think that's how you clear the air, I guess.
yeah, you have passive aggressive anonymous feedback, and then they all fight about it.
Yes.
Or they stir up things that were never talked about in the first place, which is what happens.
Yeah. Before we talk about the actual questions, which I wrote down a lot of the questions, I just
Hmm.
want to comment on. So, this is a girls' trip. I understand they're all influencers. They're on a TV show now, but I think it's really funny that because they do this on the Real Housewives too. Like they will have a dinner in the house they're staying at with a chef, and they all come down completely dressed to the nines, like their hair, makeup, dress, heels, all of it. And then as soon as they're done, they're like, let's get in our comfies. And I'm like, why were we ever dressed up in the first place? I'd be so mad if I were there. I'd be like, can I just come eat in my comfies? I don't want to have to dress up. What's the point? I mean, but if you were like, well, you're going to be on TV, I'd be like, yeah, I guess I will dress up. But then if I'm just changing into my comfies anyway afterwards on TV, then I think, what's the point of any of this?
That's so funny. I didn't even think about that. I
Well,
loved that they were like, well, if we're gonna fight and argue and talk, let's get into our comfies. I was like, well, that's good. Get you. But it's true. It's like when you watch Downton Abbey and people's whole lives are just like wandering from room to room in different clothing and doing nothing and accomplishing nothing. It feels like a lot of work to do what I could do in my jammies.
yes, yes. And it's so much more comfortable. But okay, so truth box.
So this moment we kind of already talked about how everybody is talking about jumping on Jen about being pregnant, and Whitney says, "We've all been pregnant. I'm really surprised people are reacting this way." My son, again, 14-year-old son, he's in the room rarely. He doesn't know this. He doesn't know the people at all. He walks through and he goes to about Whitney, which cracked me up because I agreed with him. But he goes,
Yeah.
"She's the only reasonable person in this whole thing." And I was like, Whitney is the only reasonable person in this group, which he was getting from this episode. And I'm like, she's sounding very reasonable in this episode.
I will say though, I don't think Taylor said anything about Jen. I don't think she commented, but I would think that if Taylor did, like, if they showed like an interview with Taylor, like, I would think that she'd be like, I mean, let's kind of lay off. I don't know. I don't feel like Taylor joined as much with them. I feel like Taylor's a little bit more reasonable than some of honestly, than all of them. I can't think of anyone. Can you think of any? Like, I think it's Taylor, and then Whitney's now like right below Taylor, which
I
is
mean, Macy's very reasonable. Is she here?
Macy. You're
Yeah,
Yes, you're right. Right.
yeah,
Macy's number one, then
yeah,
Taylor.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
now Whitney's like a third, which is confusing.
Taylor in this episode gets a little feisty at some point, and I don't remember exactly why. Oh, it's about the money, but she gets a little feisty, and I see that in Taylor, and it is sort of like when Taylor's mad, you
Activated.
see it. Yeah, it turns on, and you're like, okay, I'm dealing with this Taylor now. So,
Yeah.
as reasonable as she can be, I think she has the least controlled reasonableness in those moments, which is an interesting like balance actually to see kind of. Not that
Yeah.
she's so unreasonable, but I just see I'm just like, yeah, it's on.
Switch. Yeah. When she's activated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, okay, let's talk about the questions that are
Okay.
posed in this truth box. One of the questions was about Jesse's husband's dick size.
Yep.
And she was like, let me stick up for my man. I am going to make this very clear. He does not have a small dick.
It's
And
very,
that's
very important to clarify.
very important. So we did a test for this purpose. You know, we got a ruler out. I took a photo. I blurred it though. Layla's like, we seen a tamp, which is just I don't know that I think if I were on a show and if I were married, none of this is true, neither one is true. But like if someone was like, your husband has a small penis, I'd be like, okay, I don't know. I'm not gonna be like, we will show them, we will prove them wrong. This is very important. I think I'd be like, whatever, like say what you want. I don't know. Like I'm happy. Like so I guess I'm like, whose battle was this? Was this his? Was this hers?
I know, I gotta stick up for my man.
Was fighting for this. But she was like, I came prepared. Here's this photo. It's blurred. And all
Which
of them were like, oh.
again, I never know if they're showing us the reaction that's actually to the thing we're supposed to be seeing them. But when that came up the first time at the hibachi dinner, I saw Jordan's face and he had no reaction because I'm sure he's like, that's trash talk, right? Like it is, there's sort of no connection to that to me. So he had no reaction at the time, which doesn't mean internally he was like, that's the worst insult you can try to levy at a guy, right? I don't know how, I'm not sure what he thought about it, but it does. It seems like such an empty but very important pejorative thing to sort of like say to a man, but to then react to it with like, I'm gonna show you is yeah, kind of weird.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But Jesse and maybe I feel like it's just Jesse's like, I will not let this go. I will show everyone that it's fine. Okay.
And then this shouldn't be important, but I have to wonder how they're measuring it because that sounded kind of above average. And so I'm just curious.
What is the average? What's the average?
Who knows? They say the average in the US is around 6, but I've heard 4 to more. I really don't know. I honestly feel like I can't trust the data because the way they gather the data is usually through self-report, and it's just something that men notoriously are not able to be honest about. So I can't imagine that it's true, but the main thing, I'm guessing it's probably somewhere between 4 and 6 inches. The average for a porn star is between 7 and 9 inches, which gives men a very like skewed sense of what is normal and how they should look. It might give women a sense of what to expect that's a little bit skewed. And so such an
Totally.
interesting cultural, like very important kind of thing that's inaccurate and ultimately usually not that important. You certainly have women who care and find it important, but I think I've heard of plenty of women who actually find that the more attractive or well hung or whatever a man has, the less he's actually sort of like invested in pleasuring, and so they end up being worse in bed. So
And that's what counts is that like
yeah,
how are you attuned to your partner's needs?
yeah,
Is like you could be very well endowed and it doesn't matter. Like that person's not going to necessarily have a good time.
yeah.
But the romantasy books, I will say, do not help with that.
Do they? I'm sure they prioritize the largeness, right? It's always
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
always like, and they're generally the books I've read are like written by women,
Yeah.
but not
Well,
men.
listen,
Like, and he was huge,
I
you know.
I think I've said that before here too, where this is an area when men claim a privilege or a lack of privilege, often the consequences of social things are imposed by other men. But I will say that when it comes to height and maybe
Oh,
size, it is a
yeah,
place where women are just as reinforcing of like, you should be 6 feet and above, and the bigger the better. Even if it's not more enjoyable, there's enough people that are like, it's just a status symbol.
yes.
Bigger the better.
I've thought about this a lot. Like, I mean, as aging, like your body changes. If you've had a baby or more than one baby, your body changes. There's this like concern of what, like, will my male partner or future potential male partners like judge me? And then I sometimes think about like, oh my gosh, but like women are so quick to often judge those factors that you just described. And like you can't do anything about it. And so if that would just be that would be tough, you know. I'm not listen, I am not a male sympathizer, but like I think that would be hard. So I think part of me though, like if I would want a man that'd be like, babe, I don't want to do that. We're not gonna do that. Don't take a picture of my dick with a ruler. Like we're
Well,
good. I'd be like, you know what? Yes, thank you. But instead, yeah, sure, let's do it. Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's like if somebody accuses you of something and you can prove them wrong, that can just feel good and quick and just sort of like, nope. It would be probably much less tempting to do what I think would be the right thing, which is to not entertain it by sort of like if you know that you've got it and people are saying you don't got it and you know that you do, wouldn't it also just be great to be like, so what? Like normalize like that's the wrong insult. But instead it's like,
Well,
no,
wait,
not
here.
me.
I agree. I think people move on quicker too. Not that I think people are like perseverating on this issue, but I think like people generally move on when you're just like, I mean, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, okay, there's not much to hold on to, so we will also move on versus like, yeah, no, I will prove you all wrong, and then it now like becomes a thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, from the guy who wants others to take ownership. Maybe he just, you know, had something he wanted to brag about, and now it's out there.
yeah,
Good
possibly.
job, good job, Jordan.
The another question. Okay, the next question was about Whitney. Do you actually care about the friendships in this room or more about how the public perceives you?
Mm.
And Whitney says, I understand how that could be perceived that way. And she says something like, but I'm working really hard to show that I do care. And then Michaela is like, You're working hard to show that you care? She was like, well, I mean, so that was a
Funny.
conversation. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Well, I what I think about Whitney is I do think that Whitney is manipulative and narcissistic and controlling and like all of the things that we've confused her of to a degree. And maybe all of them are to a degree, right? We all have sort of like our not good traits. And so I think we've seen Whitney's. And I think that she kind of like strategically knows what she's supposed to do, but she doesn't know how to hide her not so good traits in doing it. So calling her out for being fake, I think it's just that like, yeah, it's like really obvious and transparent. No matter how warm and genuine and effusive Whitney is being, I think it is. I mean, I just think it's obvious what's happening. So her choice of language, are you wondering like, is it revealing? Like, I think it is funny because
Yeah, I was wondering.
it
Yeah.
like it sounds, it's almost like she tells on herself because she can't help it.
Well, I think it came out wrong. I sort of
Sure.
feel like she does want to repair the relationships. I don't think
Right.
that's not true. Again, the motive may be questionable or like complex or whatnot, but I think she does want to. I don't think she's just like, how can I fake that I
Right.
care? People are like Freudian slip.
Right. But yeah, she could have gotten specifically the feedback of like, well, I think she gets it in this episode too, is like you'll go to a different person and say, I feel so bad about that, but you won't say it to the person. And so maybe she's gotten the feedback of like, you need to show you're sorry to the person you're sorry to. So it could just be coming from that of like, I'm trying to show that I care. I'm trying to, demonstrate it because demonstrating something is how you gain trust, not just saying, so like, yeah, tough crowd who maybe was going to
Crowd.
jump on the Freudian slip. But it was probably fine.
The other question was about the anonymous message to Macy about Demi's husband sleeping with somebody.
Of
I thought
course.
this was okay. Again, I was like, this is why they're all crappy friends to each other because no one told. That was Demi's
That's her
first
first
time
time
hearing
hearing it.
that.
We've
Yeah.
known about it for a while.
Yes, the truth box, and they're all like, and Demi's face, she is not pleased. She's also, you can kind of see, I feel like the wheels turning, like what's happening right
Who
now. Okay,
said this? Why?
people are aware of this. This has been a conversation that has been discussed. And I didn't think again, I'm not in that position. I don't know how I would respond put on the spot. I'm not great at responding when I'm put on the spot. But I also think it's something better responded to with, okay, like I'm not worried about that, and
Hmm.
she does look bothered by it, but I don't think she's worried, if that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't look like it. It's like she's
Yeah.
bothered by it, but not worried. But then she was like, out of our whole marriage, there have been 5 days that we are not together. And I was like,
Wild.
that's unhealthy to me.
Yeah.
Again, like I feel like that's unhealthy. It's to me when people are like, we just love spending so much time together. Like we just love it. That's why we do it. I'm like, that feels not true. Even like with people in my life that I adore, like my favorite, like my, family members that I'm so close with, my best friends, I want to spend more than 5 days away from them. Like I love them, but I feel like that's not super healthy. But
Yeah.
and also like that shouldn't be, is that justification? Like, yeah, they wouldn't cheat. We never leave each other. Like we were together all the time. So there's no way that could happen. But that seems to be like the argument that even some of her friends are like, well, they're never apart except for that one time
Right.
last week at
Never the
girls' trip.
opportunity. Yeah,
Anyway,
it's true. I don't use the word codependency much, and I honestly don't. It's not like part of the way I think or work in therapy or anything like that. So it's interesting because people will come up and say, "Is this codependency?" Or they'll say, "I think I'm codependent," and I'm always sort of like, "Yeah, let's talk about that." But that's probably close to what this feels like. If it's not going well, is it codependency? Is this codependency? Them spending every moment together? Is there something like, why is that? Do you need to? Is that a codependent? Would you call that? I probably shouldn't even be talking about this. I don't know what it means.
I mean, I feel like you have to know why, the why, like that's how you define, like I don't feel comfortable saying like that feels like codependency if like you can't spend time apart, but like I would want to know like why have you not spent more time apart? Why can't you go longer? Well, we just love each other. Like, okay, that's great, but also like that it feels codependent, but I think I'd want to learn more before I
Sure.
to be continued. There are more questions. Like
Oh,
Jessie was asked if she kissed a guy publicly at Tom Tom and Sir.
right.
And then, okay, but I don't care about that as much. The next thing I'm very fascinated about, someone asked, which I thought was very messy and very interesting. And I'm like, why have we not been talking about this? Are you upset that Demi is willing to take a bigger contract, even if that means potentially dropping Jesse from the show? And I was like, what? What? We are focusing on Jen right now because she lied about what, I guess what, like the Chippendales thing, like we're upset and like she lied about the Ben Affleck thing, but like Demi was like, I'll cut a bitch. Yeah, cut her out. Whatever. She's my best friend. I don't give a fuck. Like,
I
excuse
know
all.
on the show they're like,
Yes. I was like, you guys just did Pilates together. Like, you guys have been talking about how Jen is awful. What is happening here?
and how
It's
you
like,
got to be authentic.
be a real person, be authentic. And so then Jesse says, did Demi say I want more money? And like the higher up powers that be said, well, only if Jesse's out, you can get more money. Like, how did that come
It
up where like
sounded, I mean, I don't know, but it sounded like to me, or at least this is the impression then that others had, including Taylor. It sounded like Demi thought she was worth more, tried to get more, and then yeah, I'm curious if they were like, if they were just like, we can't pay all of you, this, or we could only pay you all more if one person left, or something. Who knows? If there was a numbers game. And yeah, did Demi select who she thought was the easiest to kick out, the least popular, or was it some other motive? It felt clear to me that they had had a conversation about it and decided to be like, that's in the past, and now we're back to friends on the show. Because even when they brought it up, neither one was surprised. They were sort of like, I felt like they're almost in cahoots about how to handle it, but I'm not
Except
sure.
Jesse at the end did not look happy.
No,
So
it
like
still did. It still had its effect.
it's still
Which
what I was like, I mean, I get that.
so it was Whitney who brought it up, and it was Whitney
Has,
specifically on camera saying, "I'm going to take the heat off me, and I'm going to bring up scandal," which actually I thought was very smart.
well,
And
so but that's later. That's the next day that Whitney
oh,
brings it up.
she brings it
Yes.
up more. Oh, okay.
Yes. She brings it up again. I wrote that down too because I thought that was hilarious that she was like, remember what we talked about yesterday? Like, tell me,
Right.
because it was not, that was at dinner. This was like they were in their comfies with the truth
That's right,
box.
because there's been no heat on Whitney right now, at least.
Right. And they kind of like, I agree, like they kind of brushed it under the rug, Jesse and Demi, but it sounded like I kind of wondered if like Demi was like, I want more money. And I don't know, whoever like is the person in charge or people in charge that are responsible for that. We're like, there's no way unless we cut someone. We could cut Jesse and we
Thinking
could
that she would
offer
never go
you
for it.
more. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. Like that's sort of what I wondered, but it was not super clear. And then because Jesse says they had a disagreement about money. And but like it what was weird to me was that it was like Demi's like, yeah, let's cut Jesse. We can get more. But then Jesse was like, I'm here to stay. And I was like, so was it a choice? Like Jesse was like, had the choice. Like, I will stay and I will not give you more money because I want my salary and I want to continue. Like it didn't seem like they were like, Jesse, you're cut. They
Right.
don't want to stay. Like it almost seemed like it was some like voluntary, like you will sacrifice yourself, Jesse, like for
Well,
greater good of
one more element of this that I know where it fits or if it fits, but they did mention that Jessie is sitting on her millions and her
Mhm.
hair empire. And I guess I don't know that I realized that she was like a millionaire from whatever her hair business was. That's kind of interesting and cool.
Her house is really nice. Her house is I think the nicest out of
And did
all.
she earn it herself? Did she like create the business? Like that's interesting. So I'm not saying that this should or could change it, but would that go into the calculation of their like cut the wealthiest woman out
Yeah,
because she's
well,
her own thing?
so that's what Demi says. Jessie sits on this empire of hair business and she does well financially and she thinks it's selfish that Jessie didn't walk. That's what she said. And
Okay.
I just feel
Yeah.
like that's not how the world works. Like,
Yeah.
I will sacrifice myself even because I'm doing well. I want this for you. Like, that's just not,
I mean,
you know,
yeah. It's hard to get people to vote that way for sure.
for sure. For sure. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think, like, if you were on a show and you were really successful and wealthy, but like, all these people, like their cars and their bags and their houses, like they're doing like they have these stay-at-home dads because they get to quit their jobs because the wives are doing so well. And I just sort of think like at what point are you like, you know what, I'm worried about them and their financial well-being. So I'm not going to go on the show, even though I have a lot of money, but they're not doing well. So I'm going to like take a I'm going to stop so they can get more. I don't know. I don't we're not like giving to the poor here. Like I just feel like it's a strange expectation in when all of them are like
That's
every
true.
person for themselves. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but anyway, so they do talk about it later though. Someone asked another question, Whitney, do you regret not going, which I thought this was really interesting. Like not
Yeah.
this part, but the follow-up
Hmm.
part of like the definition of regret. I really want to
Oh, all of it was hilarious.
yes. And so, Whitney, do you regret not going to Macy's baby mama launch? And Whitney says no, she does not regret it. Because if it weren't for that, then she wouldn't know how to make things better. I wouldn't know how to make it right, which I didn't understand that.
I think I can translate.
Please.
No, I took this as, I don't think this is a Mormon thing exclusively, certainly, but I took this as the trials that I have been given help me grow into the person I need to be. Like that message, right? You
Oh,
can't grow without facing the challenges and difficulty that make you grow. That's like a lesson, that's wisdom, all of those things. I think she was answering from that, right? Like when you get a person who's gone through like, I don't know, maybe like years of like alcohol abuse or something like that, and they get sober and they're like, I've lost time and all of those things. And like one of the things that can be helpful to get to is sort of like, all of this has shaped you to where you are now. And if you can like who you are now, then you can be grateful for even the stuff that sucks because you're like
yeah.
this, you know, it always, I'm a product of all of that, even the stuff that sucked, which is a very self-centered growth sense, right? Is like, that's how I'm happy about my situation. But to me, this was just a softball to get her to apologize to Macy. And all she had to do was be like, yeah, I regret that. I hurt somebody and I regret that I hurt somebody. And I wrote down Whitney is too narcissistic to express regret.
Yes.
She cannot bring herself to admit fault. It has
Yes.
to be twisted into this, like, thank goodness that happened. And I mean, it's fine. That's an explanation, but you could see Macy's face. She was like, I couldn't even hand me a yes, I regret it.
Yes. 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 I mean, it's sort of complex too. Like, I mean, just that idea of like, yes, if I can appreciate if I didn't go through those challenges, I wouldn't maybe now have the self-awareness that I do in terms of like what friends need and how to be supportive. But so I see how that could be helpful to get me to where I am now, but I regret not going and supporting you. Like I don't why aren't we saying that? Why is that so
And
and
honestly, if I were coaching somebody to say that better, I would start with the I regret it.
yes,
And then
yes,
if I wanted to embellish, maybe I would say, I'm glad it led me to a place of healing and da 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 da. I wish it didn't have to come from that lesson. But
yes.
instead, she's just like, nope,
No regrets. You
all good.
like yes. Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, I regret it. I see now that that had that the the domino effect, those events like helped me learn something, but I certainly regret that I wasn't there to support you. Like I that's a very nice thing to say. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like she's not owning her like some of the problematic behavior. That's why like I wasn't understand like is this the hill we're dying on? Like you really I don't regret that at all. Like come on, like you're the one who's trying to say sorry and make amends and I don't know. I thought that was and especially after that conversation with Michaela, which did you see Michaela's face? I was like, told you
Hmm.
guys.
Yeah,
Told
yeah.
you. Yeah. Yeah, you thought she could be better. Huh, guess she doesn't regret not going to your baby mama event. I would have also done the same thing if I were Michaela. Like, yeah, okay. You can't just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Was this the next day? Yeah, this was the next day. They were like all at breakfast. Like the next scene was Macy being like, I saw this I saw this TikTok video of a woman needing surgery because her ovary was like damaged by someone jackhammering her so hard or something. And I was like, what is this TikTok? I have so many questions. Why? And like, why did that woman not, if you were like, I am having internal damage right now to my ovaries, are we not saying to that person, like, this hurts. Like I just can't imagine. Like the pleasure was so I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but like the pleasure was so
Yeah, maybe she didn't notice till later.
maybe. But
Very
also
upsetting.
it's very upsetting. And she then that lady decided to make a TikTok video about it. All of it is very concerning to me. Like this is it like a warning? I don't know.
No wonder all of their sense of propriety is different than mine. They're functioning in a different set of rules.
Yeah.
But they're still talking about positions, though.
Oh,
Positions,
are they?
legs up, and
Oh
bam,
my
bam, bam. And oh my gosh, it's a lot. And
mm.
so Macy and Whitney excuse themselves to go have a chat. And what Macy says, what we all knew, which is like, gosh, it seems like you're still not sorry. Or at least won't just give me an I'm sorry.
And then Whitney is like, you only regret things that happen if your intention was like malicious, like if you're wanting to hurt this
You
person.
can only regret things you did on purpose from a place
No,
of maliciousness.
that's not what that's not
Do
true.
you
That's not
regret running over your child with a car? No, because I didn't know they were there.
right.
Like, I'm sorry.
It wasn't done on purpose, so no, I don't regret it. Like
No
that doesn't
regrets. And
it's
I really like developed a lot from the grief process. Like, what the fuck?
like, are we getting into semantics here about what regret means? Like that's
Instead of like saying, could you be sorry?
but also it's not even about semantics. Like she's just wrong. That's not what regret is. That's not true. I understand that some people can get into like some semantics where like technically they're not wrong, but like
Listen, the narcissist must protect themselves at all cost. It doesn't matter how obvious it is to everyone that they're lying or that they're obfuscating. It's just
yeah.
not that I'm diagnosing her with a narcissistic personality disorder. Can't do that.
We don't know her. So
Nope.
but then Macy breaks down and says when her son's dad died,
Mm.
she still participated in two weddings. And she says,
It's valid. I laughed at the time because I misunderstood the point she was trying to make, but it is valid. She's saying, I still showed up for my
I
friends.
showed up.
I
Yeah.
thought she was saying all these bad things happened. He died, two weddings. Ah!
No, she was like, I still showed up for people, even
Yeah,
though like this trauma happened.
fair.
But then she does say something that I was like, that is true. She's like, Whitney wants to be right rather than focusing on how Macy feels. And I think that statement should be shared with everyone in the
Mm,
group. Like,
mm,
maybe don't worry about being right and just think about how the other person is feeling and
hmm
go from there. Like,
hmm
and go. Let's
Start there, please.
yes, because it's all very much like, no, but this is what happened. No, but this is what happened.
Yeah.
And maybe just the person's upset. Like, I don't want you to feel that way. And
I think
um,
that can be hard in relationship therapies too, where I've even heard kind of this statement like, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? And I do have mixed feelings. I think people who do feel either, whether it's gaslit or they just feel sort of like you're arguing over basic truths, it can feel really frustrating not to at least agree on the facts. Um, and yet, when you get into this sort of thing where what they think of as facts are slightly subjective, it's super unuseful and isn't even the point of the argument and isn't even the problem. And so, like you're saying, yeah, it's like it can be hard, I think, for this person who wants to decide the facts to let go of the facts in order to like attend to the relationship, but it's much more effective.
yeah. Okay, so then Whitney starts crying.
Yeah, well, they get into giving her pretty direct feedback that I think is fair and accurate.
I think so.
I guess I don't have a lot to say, but they kind of tell Whitney something that I think is like true and challenging when a person is like, give me the example. And it's sort of hard to be like, I'm not keeping a logbook of examples because it's a pattern, right? Like you do this. And I think often a person being accused in in this situation, they're like, "Well, give me the example," and then they'll refute a single example, but they're not hearing that like everybody sees this pattern, which Demi says, because they're like, "Do you have an example?" And Demi's sort of like, "There's a pattern," and so I think it's tricky because the person can sort of feel like they can't even name a thing, and I think that makes them feel like the criticism isn't valid. And I agree that it's more helpful if you can point to things and say, "You did this, I want to see this." But I do think that it is like I'm not taking notes of every grievance I have with my partner, like she might be sometimes, but I'm not like remembering every little thing. It's just sort of like this is how I feel, this is how you make me feel. And being able to talk about the pattern and where that comes from might be more useful because then you can get to those points where it's like, well, that didn't happen or it did. Their conversation is cut short, so they're kind of moving along. I don't know if it's sinking in, and then they're like, we have to leave at 1 and get ready soon. Jesse like starts doing Macy's hair while they're arguing. It
Yes.
was great. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Multitasking.
Yeah, I think like there's some benefit to immediacy. Like, hey, listen, what you just said right now hurt my feelings. And
Hmm
I think that that's helpful, but in general, like, but not everyone's going to call out their friend or family member or partner every single time something happens. So what happens a lot of times is people like, okay, well, I didn't like the way that felt. I'm not going to say anything, but then it happens again and then it happens again. And then you're like, okay, now I feel like maybe I need to say something, but you're not calling it out like right in the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Or worse, you don't say anything about that, but then you start to like bicker and argue over other things. And you're like, why are we fighting over these semantics? And you're like, I'm mad about this, actually. Like it's a buildup.
But this is where Whitney then gets upset. She's like, let's go around the room. Everyone just tell me why they're upset with me. And Demi's like, I don't really want to rehash this for our relationship. Like, let's just kind of move forward, essentially. And then I think it just like died then, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Because they had to leave. I appreciate that Whitney is doing this. It just kind of cracks me up because in the first season, I feel like this is what Taylor was trying to do with her, and then Jesse came with some like information, and then Demi came, and like she wasn't having it then. And granted, if it took her a year to like be ready to receive it, but you have to understand people were willing to give you this feedback at some point, so you can't always force people to like do the thing.
Mhm.
How did you feel about Jen out of privacy is gonna stop filming maybe the rest of the season?
So, okay, I thought this was interesting. So she says, and I was curious about this. So she's like, I feel not good. I feel like, she was like, a lot of mothers think they don't deserve help, whether it's prenatal, postpartum. I'm going to take a step back away from mom talk. But then the next like image was the text that said, out of respect for Jen's privacy, production has made the decision to stop filming with her at this time so she can focus on her mental health. And I was like, so then was it production? Like, did she not, like, did they
Does that
initiate,
mean
like,
we let her out of her contract? Or what is the
yes, like, what is it like that? Because I would think they'd be like, Jen has asked us to step, because I feel like I've
that would
seen
sound
like
better, yeah.
reality TV. Like Jen has asked to step aside for a period of time due to her mental health. But it was like out of respect for Jen's privacy, production has made the decision. Like that language, I just feel like is really specific. And so then, and I hear Jen saying, like, I feel like I need to step away from mom talk for my health, for my baby's health. But I did kind of wonder, like, was it production that's like, we can't do that? Like, we're not going to, for a variety of reasons, like, we're not going to continue with this. So I don't know. What do
Right.
you
Yeah.
think?
It could come from like a an ethical standpoint where they're like, we don't feel like we can watch somebody languish in a major depressive episode
Mhm.
for entertainment. Or they could have been standing there being like, do something, or you're off the show. Like, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel really bad because if no, whatever Jen is actually going through at the time of filming and everything, it's caused by the show, not just the show. The show is part of it, and
Hmm.
it's in there. So it's really sad to see her so upset in a situation where it probably is good for her. I mean, I tell students that I see all the time, especially, they're sort of like, I must succeed in college, even at the cost of my mental health. And I'm like, I get it. That's also how I got my degrees, like at the cost of my mental health. So I get it. And it can feel like, the graduation is the absolute most important thing. So I'll tell people all the time, I'm like, from my perspective, you surviving this is more important than the degree. And so if we came to the decision that the right decision was for you to change professions from being a doctor to a dancer or whatever, like that's what I want for you because I don't really care if you're a doctor. I want you healthy. And so it's easy for me to be like, I don't care what you do what's healthy. So when I
Yeah.
saw this, part of me was like, it might be healthiest.
Hmm. Yeah. I think like the shoulds, like I should be doing this. I should, like that gets in the way. And like, yeah, no, you should be taking care of yourself, whatever that means. Like it'll be okay. Like all this will be here when
Yeah.
you feel better. I think it
Yeah.
was a good decision. But I did think the language was
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but it's interesting. So then they go to the pickleball tournament, and Macy's there doing the pickleball. There's not much about it, but clearly it's a legitimate event. They're there.
she was a BYU tennis athlete.
Oh, Macy was?
Yeah, that's what they're like. She's a tennis athlete from BYU, so it makes sense like why she's
Hmm.
hosting this, and that's super cool, like with her athletic history. And I was like, well, that's interesting. They haven't talked
Yeah,
about that. That's cool.
yeah, yeah. That is cool. I didn't catch that.
But that was it. Then they
Yeah, then they go to
go
dinner. They dress up and go to dinner, and
and have mocktail shots, which I was like very perplexed and confused as to like, is it just we want a sip of juice? Like I just don't want like I get like a mocktail, totally get that. But a mocktail shot, it's like I don't want the full glass. I just want a little taste.
that
Like
is so
are we
funny.
throwing back? Like I'm not understanding the mocktail shot, but I appreciate they did that.
I
So
mean, listen, it's so funny. I think that Mormons culturally see themselves as much more mainstream than maybe other people see them
mhm.
because they're still watching TV for the most part, pretty mainstream stuff, and they're watching reality shows and they're watching competition shows and they're watching all the things. But, you know, we grow up in a world where it's like church and religion, according to Hollywood, is always Catholic, right? It's like the cross, the priest, like all the rules in Hollywood, vampires, everything. It's Catholic. And so we're like, oh, that's interesting. Those are the rules.
Yeah.
And then there's alcohol, and that exists outside there also. And so I kind of can imagine this as like it's like kids with the candy cigarettes, right? Like you can eat candy in a lot of ways, but eating that candy cigarette has hits a little different, and I'm sure that's what these mocktails are doing to them.
Mocktail shots. Yes.
The shots specifically. They are engaging and reenacting cultural activities that are shared by Americans, but they're doing it within the observation of their religion.
The only way I want to do a mocktail shot is if there's like some like is turmeric in there. Like, are we like adding things for health benefits? You know, like you can get like at Trader Joe's, like the little like health and
Sure,
wellness
yeah, that's
shot.
a good
Yeah,
idea.
I'll
That
do that. That's fine.
that's
But if you were just pouring juice in a little cup, I don't need to throw that back, sir. No, thank you. Like I
I'm
will just
certain that's what they're doing.
yes. I just but I see what you're saying. Yes.
The
Hmm.
mocktail shots.
The mocktail shots. I love a good mocktail, but the shots, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, Whitney has been feeling the heat now of accountability, and so she comes up with a plan that's actually very effective, which is let's lean more into Demi and Jess's history. And so she pushes that button, and it kind of works. And to your point, I don't think it's rant. I mean, yes, she's throwing attention off of herself doing a super Whitney thing, but given the context of all the things they're doing and saying about Jen, the fact that this is there and not being talked about seems very, very calculated.
It feels very calculated. Although I do think Whitney was not like, I think we should get to the bottom of this. She said, she's like, I just want the like
Tell
heat
me
off
more.
my relationship with Michaela. And I also didn't feel like she was very natural at it, which I thought was interesting because the idea, I think like Whitney, season one, like a lot of people are like, she's very manipulative and she's calculating. And then this like felt like she had no game at all in this. She's like, anyway, about what we talked about earlier, tell me more. And it just didn't feel like very natural to
That's
me.
funny.
Um, but I thought, but like also, yes, tell me more. I need to know more about this. You can't brush this under the rug. This feels like a really big issue that we aren't talking about. And we are instead focusing on, yeah, Jen.
Listen, this makes me think of how fame could ruin anyone. So I don't putting anything I might think or think I thought about Demi aside, because I liked her in the first season and then haven't liked her so much this season and whatever, and I don't know or have no idea. So absent of anything that might actually be true in this case, I wonder what it's like, right? You're one of many on a show. Clearly, there are more popular ones, and in this case, Taylor and Whitney. And you're on this show and you're watching them crash out. You're watching Taylor get arrested and be on probation and get pregnant. And you're watching Whitney sort of like transparently fall apart in all of these ways. And I think somebody brings up in the last season at some random weird point, like, who's Queen Bee? Is it you to me?
Yeah.
And I just wonder what does it inflate you a little? Like, are you walking along? Like, have you ever been at a job and suddenly you realize that, like, you have seniority and you're the most qualified and you're like, I should apply for that or something, you know? Like, I wonder if there's this thing where she just felt like, I could do that. I bet politicians do that all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, am I popular enough to, like, run for a thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe she made a power grab that came from this, like, idea.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure it feels really good to, but it does also feel like, yeah, like what fame, like I'm curious, like if we were to become famous, what would happen to our personalities? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's scary. I mean, look, the psychologist in me that wants to be fair and say none of us know anything, I bet it's bad. I bet it's
The
dangerous.
Bono prison study, like, people
Yeah.
like step in these roles and they're just not who they think they are. I would like to think that like our core values and integrity would remain intact and things feel right and wrong. But I don't know. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Well, you know, Viktor Frankl in his book about surviving a concentration camp, Man's Search for Happiness, he sort of talks about like, Freud had this opinion of if you strip somebody down all the way to just their basic necessities, then you'll find that they're just another animal.
Hmm.
And Frankel sort of said, like, I found the opposite to be true. I think that, like, when you strip somebody down of everything, that's when you can actually find out what their humanity is or isn't. And so I would say that, like, yeah, if you take everything away from somebody, maybe you find out who they really are. But I would also argue that if you give somebody everything, you'll also find out who they really are, right? And I would be nervous. I would be afraid to be just given endless amounts of power and money and things because I already know how hard it is to like be happy when you don't need anything. Like I don't need anything now and I'm not happy. And so having no barriers I think would be terrible. So yeah, when I see powerful people acting badly, I'm like money and power corrupts, popularity corrupts, it all just corrupts.
Yeah, yeah, I
I'm a
agree.
pessimist. I'm very pessimistic about.
I mean, I'm a pessimist too, except when except when it comes to me, and then I think
I could I'm a little better than that.
very optimistic about how I would handle things. But I do kind of think like, I don't know, for me, like my stuck point with life is that like it's not fair even, and that life is not fair even for many people. And there's privilege and all of that. Like, but I would like to think that if, like if
Mhm.
we were to become famous or wealthy, that like I wouldn't want to screw over my partner or, like colleague. Because that doesn't feel fair. Like you've done it
Yeah.
all together, and like that has been something from like a kiddo that I'm like, I don't want to have more than someone else that's done the same thing as me that does not feel fair. So I'd
Yeah.
like to think that that would continue. Would
Well,
I? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, listen, when you look at people who gained extreme wealth in their lifetime compared to people who grew up with wealth,
Hmm.
I think you see more empathy, compassion, and charitability from the group who didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
And what I would hope for you and I is, our background and our upbringing and everything would be more solid. It's
Hmm.
probably like you got to make the decision beforehand. You can't make it big in Hollywood and then decide you're not going to use Coke. Like you probably need to make that decision before,
Yeah.
or you'll be making it on the fly. And so
Hmm.
maybe you really have to make a decision like, I'm going to be fair in this? Or are you going into it being like, I'm going to get everything I can out of this? And maybe, yeah, maybe it changes.
I also think like how is my maybe this is not great. I don't know. How are my actions going to bite me in the butt later? So if I am saying like, yeah, let's cut my friend out, whatever. I think like part of me would be like, well, but what if that didn't happen? And then like is this going to damage your friendship? And like I don't know, I'd be thinking like how could this behavior and action negatively impact you and the people around you. And I don't know. I
Yeah.
play out those scenarios and I don't know. Like that's not
Well,
that
that might be a calculation of like risk aversion or how
right.
will it get? Because you see the CEO at the Coldplay concert and you're
So
like,
I'm obsessed. I wanted to ask you that last before we had to stop. I'm obsessed with all of the memes about Michael Scott. Have you seen those?
no, about Michael Scott. No, I haven't.
Gosh, Michael Scott and Holly, she was the HR, right? And
Yeah,
so there's all these like the two of them hugging, and I'll send it to you
that's
afterwards.
funny.
And it's like the astronomer CEO and the head of HR, and it's I'm very much into this story, which
How
is
funny.
okay. So, okay, wait. So they revisit this, and again, no one is good at explaining what happened. That is like my biggest issue with
Mm,
this cast. Like there's a problem, an issue, and the way they tell stories is like, well, it's not helpful in allowing us to understand what happened.
yeah.
And so they said they had a call with a lawyer and manager, but Brett was speaking, and Jesse's like, Brett's not going to speak for me. But then Demi felt like Jesse went around them to get whatever she wanted, which I don't know what that means. So she
Mm,
felt like whatever, fair to kick Jesse out.
But it does stir up Taylor a little bit, who isn't. We've talked about Taylor's motives for wanting connection and being popular, or whatever, seems to come more easily and naturally to her, and she hasn't ever acted very greedy. In fact, she often acts self-destructive because she's so authentic.
Yeah.
But this is a moment too where Taylor, I mean, I thought Taylor's acting a little bratty in this moment, but whatever. Uh,
I didn't think so.
you
I didn't think so. Mm-mm.
but she gets, but yeah, I wasn't like mad at her, but I was just like, oh, here it comes. But yeah, she was just sort of like, what makes you think you earn more? Why not me? It would be me if it were me, but I haven't been doing that. Like she really gets at her, and then it turns into like, you gonna let me finish? And I was like, there's the angry Taylor. She's out.
Honestly, I was like, I respect. I like had a lot of respect for it. And whether it's healthy, this may be the toxic part of me. I don't know. I don't know. But I was like, okay, Taylor, like, yeah, it seemed a little aggressive slightly, like to like you're gonna let me speak. But like she had a point and she's like, I'm
She
not
wasn't
done
done. Yep.
saying like
Yep.
what I want to say. But I like don't hold it against Taylor at all, saying to Demi because you cannot say it's no surprise that I'm the fan favorite. Like you're
Right.
no longer the fan favorite. As soon as you say that, no one likes you. I mean, not no one likes you, but like you've lost a
You
bunch
can't
of
say it.
you can't say it. You need to like there has to be some humility there.
But also
Because
funny that it's no surprise. It's one thing to, I mean, I think even mentioning, like, gosh, I'm a fan favorite is also something you shouldn't say, but that it's no surprise I'm a fan favorite. I was like, really?
well, because so someone said, well, I heard to me that you said you should get the biggest brand deal. And then Jesse's like, I actually heard that too. And then like multiple women like, I heard that as well. And I was like, Lord have mercy. Like you guys all are not friends. Okay. Like
Yeah.
you're not like this is no dinner that I would have with my friends. And I think the difference between I'm going to say it, the Real Housewives and Mom Talk is that the Real Housewives, none of them pretend to all be besties. Like they are
Hmm.
like, we're on this show together. Now, normally there is like, I brought this person on because we have a history of friendship. They are now in the group. And then
Hmm.
like a fallout would be like, I thought we were best friends. And then you got on this show and you screwed me over and we're not friends anymore. But no one's like looking around the table to be like, guys, we were best friends before this. And so even they like somewhat run in the same circles and they're all together on the show. But on Mom Talk, there is this idea of like, we all have a history and we're all friends. And like the way they talk to each other, oh my gosh. But anyway, so she's like, yeah, we all heard that you thought you should have the biggest brand deal. Demi initially says that's not true. So for Demi to say, yeah, well, it's not a shock that I was a fan favorite. And then and then she said, like, she felt like an asset and that she should fight for more. And that is everyone's like on reality TV, their fatal flaw because everyone is expendable. And the minute you start to think that the show needs you,
Hmm.
I've like seen it so many times on all the shows I love and watch that you will get cut and no one will remember you. Like they will be like, "Oh yeah, I do remember I like that." But then you get sucked into the cast and so you can never be like they need
So
me.
do you think they're in too much of an echo chamber that their popularity feels much more tangible and sustainable or something like that, that they just think people will follow me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, like they watch the show and they're like, okay. And I do think that like if you are looking at a specific season and you're like, yeah, if you took that person out, what would the season be like? And you're like, it might be kind of boring. But then guess not how you view the situation. It's like, okay, yeah, that season needed you. But if I kick you out the next season, we'll just bring someone
We
else in
won't
and it'll be
miss you.
fine. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think like that's what people are missing. Like, yes, that season needed you, but not the next one doesn't necessarily need you. And Taylor, but so I totally also Taylor's like this, like the whole premise is based on what I shared, and I'm not asking for more money. Like,
Hmm.
and two, her point is like Demi hasn't shared anything personal or raw really about her
Hmm.
life. She did try and did, at the end of this dinner, but like up until this point, like Demi hasn't shared anything other than Brett's her best friend and they love each other so much and they're attached to the hip and they're so great together.
I
Like
mean,
she has,
she's known him since she was a child, so maybe
oh, yes, we have a friend from youth.
from
And
you.
And
Like a
so
father figure almost. I'm
like
just
a
kidding.
father figure until not. But Taylor's like like we've seen her get arrested. Like we're talking about like her the swinging scandal, and
Yeah.
I feel like it's totally fair for her to be like, you have no right to say that. Like I could have said that, and I haven't. And I'm
Hmm.
not coming from that degree of like thinking that angle of thinking like I deserve more money. But Demi is actually saying she thinks she deserves more money to the point where she's saying I kick my friend off because I think that I should deserve more.
I mean, I'm telling you, that is the one thing that I've learned about very wealthy people
Mhm.
that comforts me when I'm thinking about how I'm not wealthy is they do not know who their real friends are at some point.
Mhm.
And I think that when you're wealthy and people are in your peer group, then you can trust some of those friendships depending. But I think when there starts to be an imbalance, then all of a sudden everything feels like a negotiation. And what can I get from you? And what can you get from me? And then they don't have strong connections. I don't know if that's true, but just
Yeah.
psychologically and having social connection, that's what would be at risk.
Yeah, I agree. But then Demi says, okay, so Jesse does say, hearing that Demi thinks I'm expendable hurts my feelings, and that she would choose Taylor over me is upsetting, meaning she wouldn't have tried to kick Taylor out.
Oh,
She's okay with kicking me out. And you can see Jesse's face during the dinner, and everyone's like, anyway, like cheers. And you could just see her face is she's deflated.
I mean, that was a pretty wicked line of questioning because Taylor is inarguably a bigger star on the show, at least was or whatever. And so for her to ask that question, is the truthfulness of like, is it about friendship, loyalty, or is it about like star power and everything? And so she had to admit, which I do think is true. Jesse might feel bad, but it's accurate, is like Taylor has more star power than you. And if you don't see that, it's probably good for you to know who's buttering your bread on the show, but
Yeah.
hurt her
I
feelings.
That would hurt my feelings a lot.
Totally.
I think of like I have a really close friend that I grew up with, and she and her husband, they do really well. They have a lot more money than I'll ever have. And if I was on a show with her, there's no way I would be like, kick her off. I'm mad at her. Kick her off. Like I want
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like one of my best friends. There's no way. It doesn't matter if she makes more and has always made like doesn't matter. But then Demi says something like, so I quoted, I'm all for sharing the spotlight. I don't care to have it all. And I was like, okay, we're not learning anything from this conversation, are we? Because we're ending on that. Like
Right.
it's like, well, I don't even want all the spotlight. I'm okay with sharing. And I was like, oh, you are not gonna be a fan favorite anymore after
Hmm.
this.
Well, we'll see. We'll
Maybe we'll see.
see.
But then she talks about her fertility struggles.
I hadn't noticed that she wasn't being vulnerable until Taylor said you're not being vulnerable, and I kind of did a quick search and I'm like, yep, nothing standing out there. And
Mhm.
then this is vulnerable, and I think it sucks manipulatively to throw out like a tragedy just to be liked. But I did notice I'm like, this does make me care about you more. Oh, a
Yeah.
real struggle. Oh, real pain. Oh, real everything isn't just like great all the time. Immediately helped me like be connected to me.
And I didn't like I don't want to say it, like I feel like Whitney maybe in the past has done some kind of like people are upset with Whitney and then she said like, well, this is what happened to me. I'm like really having a hard time with this. And like it's hard to kind of connect at times with that when like
Hmm.
people are like everyone's sort of pointing fingers at me. I'm maybe causing some problems. Let me tell you though about this hard thing that I'm going through. It didn't feel like that for
Yeah,
me
she
watching
didn't do it in
TV.
response to that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I agree it was easier to connect with her. I generally feel like, yeah, it's easier to connect with people when they're authentic. Like you don't have to paint everything as rosy and you don't have to share all of the nitty-gritty like challenges, but some balance kind of allows people to feel like you're a real person.
Yeah. And
And
measuring your husband's dick is not the same, even though you might feel like you're sharing a lot.
you're not
So Jesse, that's not going to
eight
be
inches
enough
you're
from
sharing, I
you.
guess,
I
but
know. Yeah, your vaginoplasty and now your husband's penis is might feel so vulnerable, but it misses the mark.
yeah, I just don't feel like and again, she does all her workouts in the bedroom.
Right.
So
I know. It's
what
all very, yeah.
else? But yeah, I felt really bad for Demi. I thought it was helpful like to connect with her a little bit more.
Yeah,
Um
fertility issues are so hard and they're largely like a quiet struggle.
Mhm.
or a
Yeah.
private, yeah.
And, like, lots of grief and yeah, not
Yeah, possibly miscarriages or near, like, you don't know what people are going through.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I wrote, Demi talks about her fertility struggles. Then they all go to a club. They dance. That was my note.
Nothing like some twerking to take our mind off of the troubles back at the Airbnb.
And they do this a lot on the show. They're like, Mormons might not drink, but we love to dance. Or like, we might wait until marriage, but we're freaks in the bedroom. Like, it's like all this.
Yeah.
Like, all
Mocktail. Like they want to be, yeah, they want to be as normal as possible, let you know they're real people.
which honestly, like, mad respect that you all are dancing like that without any alcohol. Because, like, I think if I'm sober, like no wine or anything, I have no desire to go to a club. Like honestly, that's the only way you could get me to a club if I can have like a glass or two of wine. Other and even then, I'd be like, I'd rather be in my comfies watching a
Maybe
show. I do not want to do that.
maybe in a lot of cultures where drinking is discouraged, but for sure, I think, Mormons grow up with a sort of gentle thought of like, I don't need alcohol to have fun. And so maybe there's a certain amount of like identity pride in like,
I can go.
I'll have fun. Yeah, I don't need that to make an excuse to act like a fool or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, I can act like a fool. It's not that. It's that like being around other sweaty people while they're dancing and
Oh,
like
I see that.
that's what I don't want.
I see, I see.
Like set up a club in the living room, like with strobe lights and like I don't know, like it could be like absolutely ridiculous, but it's the all the people around you and the touching, and I just don't
Oh
want to.
yeah,
It's
alcohol.
hot.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot different because I'm never sober in a bathroom, leaning on the wall, and feeling fine about that. But in other circumstances, maybe I don't care as much.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have Do you have anything? Do you have any thoughts on the skinny dipping? More
Oh,
more
I'll
Mormon
have
girls
to
gone
write
wild.
that down. Yes.
They go skinny dipping.
Did they
They took
skinny?
their tops off.
Well, no. The first season, did they do that? Do you remember? I don't remember.
No, I don't remember. They got in a hot tub and then they kind of got in a shower, but I feel like they had their bikinis on. I don't know if they were topless per se. They said they've all had boob jobs. And so somebody even said that. They're like, "You look great, lady," like
We've all had boob jobs, which
yeah.
is no, but what'd you think of I forgot about this part, the Demi Brett, where he's like, you're not skinny dipping, and she's like, I'm not gonna do that anymore. And everyone was like, that's controlling
I'm
because
wait
you said you were going to skinny dip.
I'm waiting to see what if there's more to the story, but yeah, at least it was funny, right? Because it's like, "Woo, let's go skinny dipping." And then the woven tale I think that Taylor was kind of saying was like, "Oh, but somebody let Brett know you had a conversation and now you're not doing it." And she wants to act like he's not being controlling and maybe it's her idea, but they're suspicious. And at first I mean, I calculated this a few ways, which was like, is he upset? Is he jealous? Does he think it's inappropriate? And then she said something about like kids seeing it. She has stepchildren, right? He has children. And so I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, so that was put in my head. I'm like, okay, I have children. I'm
Mhm.
married to somebody. I don't know what my children's relationship is to my wife, and she wants to skinny dip. Maybe I would have an opinion on that for that reason. And so then I was like, okay, maybe it's not controlling. Maybe it's like
Oh, I think it
about the
was.
kids. You thought it was still?
I didn't think it was controlling. No,
Oh,
I agree. I don't think I agree with you. Not necessarily. It could be, but
could
I
be.
do think that like part of what is, and again, I've observed this on reality TV with all my Real Housewives, when it's like the focus is on like female empowerment, which I am a feminist. I am all about female empowerment. But I do think sometimes when it comes to couples, you lose sight a little bit at times with certain issues on like
Mm.
you want to also respect how your partner feels too. And
Yeah,
where's that line between it's controlling versus like respecting? And I think that's hard to gauge sometimes.
yeah. I mean, I get that's where I'm like, I guess I don't know what the truth is because had Denise said, or I found out we were going skinny dipping and was like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Where my kids are going to see this? Like your stepchildren are going to see this?" And I was like, "No, you're right, I won't." If she had said that and that's what happened, that would land totally different than her just sort of like, "Oh, actually, I'm not going to do it anymore." And now everybody's sort of wondering what it's about. So
Yeah.
there is a way to be a little bit more honest and open that hopefully good people and good friends will respect
Yes, hopefully.
your boundary and your reasoning.
Because if I were on TV, I would constantly be thinking of like, well, what would my child's going to watch this? How would they feel? And
Yeah.
that's a very valid, or the yeah, stepchildren, whatever. Like that's a valid consideration. Have you ever gone skinny dipping?
Gosh, I want to say yes, but I'm trying to think if I've ever taken it all off. I definitely have not in like a lake or a natural body of water. And I've done plenty of like Speedo in a swimming pool, which felt like skinny dipping. So I've taken some steps, but I don't know if I've actually been skinny dipping, to be honest. Have you?
Once I went with my girlfriend, and this was in, I think we were like 11th or 12th grade. This is so sad. Like this was like the wild life we lived at this time. We went, so my good friend, we would stay at her grandmother's like condo, like her townhouse with her
Uh-huh.
grandma. I loved her grandmother. Like I called her grandma. She was wonderful. She'd like make us pancakes in the morning with raspberries and like bacon and stuff, and it was
She
delightful.
sounds amazing.
She was amazing. Like yeah, a better grandmother than like my experiences with grandmothers in my life. She's wonderful. Well, so, but like one time, so my friend and I were like, everyone's doing like fun stuff in high school, like parties, and like we never got invited to anything. So we were like, let's go skinny dipping at grandma's pool, like the
Very
community.
adventurous, yeah.
And I think we like had a sip of creme de menthe. Like it's like a mint flavored liqueur, and like we're having a drink. And like it was like a little sip of like the creme de menthe.
It's like 12 proof. Oh, yeah.
And then we're like in the pool, woo! And then I think like we jumped in and we're like, and we're done now. And we got out and walked right back to grandma's townhouse. No one was around, no one was in the pool. It was like 9 p.m. in an older adult community. That was like our wild. That was like my
I mean,
one.
unless you're going to escalate and do something sexual, you're really
Like,
it's
what are
there's
you
no
doing?
end game there. You're just it's the same as usual, except maybe you're more nervous that
Yeah.
somebody's going to come over.
Yes, it's like a thrill, I guess, for a moment. And then, yeah, you're like, well, I guess I could be wearing my bathing suit because it doesn't feel all that different. And like, why are we doing this in the first place? But again, we were like 17 and we're like, this
Sure.
is going to be fun because everyone else we know they're at actual parties and we're not.
Well, and now look at you. You're telling the story, and it's just such a badge of honor.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes, I
Proud
yes, I have been skinny dipping.
once after some creme de menthe, as one does.
Well, I'll have to add it back to my bucket list, but I really think that my desire to not be sort of like discovered naked in public is a lot stronger than my desire to be naked in a body of water. So,
Yeah,
I have a large bathtub. I'm okay.
yeah, I can take a shower or a bath. I do not care. Although I do think like it might be like adventurous to skinny dip in the ocean, but then I'd be afraid of sharks. So, and I have no
Oh
desire.
my
But
gosh, or
this time.
jellyfish or things swimming where they shouldn't go. No, thank you.
So, yeah, for me, like that was the a one and done.
Well,
Okay,
fantastic.
until next time.
Good to be with you. Thanks for watching, everyone. Another episode of Afternoon Tea with Shandy as we talk about the secret lives of Mormon wives. Take care, Dr. Jones.
Okay. Bye.